While American football season is in full swing here in the United States, football is at the heart of American sports culture. Despite its popularity, football players are susceptible to concussions. More than 10 years ago, Doctor Bennet Omalu discovered chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, a neurodegenerative disease found in people who have had multiple head injuries while conducting the autopsy of NFL Hall of Famer Mike Webster. In an exclusive interview, he discusses his journey to the breakthrough discovery.
I wish I never met Mike Webster, because my life after that case would never be the same. That case began on a cold, rainy Saturday morning in September up in the Allegheny Mountains of Pennsylvania, in a city called Pittsburgh. I was the most junior pathologist. I had just completed my training as a neuropathologist 3 months earlier. Everybody was talking about this great American football player who had just died. But they were talking about him in very derogatory ways. I was offended by what I heard, because as a forensic pathologist, my duty is to speak for the dead, to give voice to the voiceless. So I paid closer attention, and I discovered that this individual played this game I saw growing up in Nigeria on satellite TV every now and then. People dressed up like extraterrestrials running around a field with big head, broad padded shoulders, and tiny legs. But I noticed as a child they would run into each other intentionally and slam violently into one another. I paid closer attention. I said, well, if this guy played this game over many years, that meant he must have sustained thousands of blows to his head. But at serendipity would have it, accidental discovery. When I got to work, guess who was on my autopsy table?
Mike Webster.
So when I realized it was him, that moment was an amalgamation of my entire life. I struggled with depression. He had depression. And another dimension to it is that through practicing forensic pathology and examining dead people, I discovered faith. I practiced my faith in my science and my science in my faith. And I had no reason to do an autopsy on Mike Webster. We knew why he died. He had a massive heart attack. But guess what? The Spirit led me to do an autopsy on him. When I opened up his skull, I was expecting his brain to be mangled and diseased. His brain appeared normal. Examining his brain wasn't necessary, or performing special analysis of the brain was unnecessary. So I went to my boss. He's a very intelligent man, Dr. Cyril Wecht. He allowed me to examine it as long as I paid for the test. I said, sure. At some point, I actually took the brain home, and I examined it on my kitchen table, on my dining table. Luckily, I wasn't married. I didn't have any children.
What were you looking for?
I did not know. All I knew was there was something wrong.
There was something wrong. So let's fast forward when you found what was wrong.
When I remember that day, abnormal changes in his brain. I actually did not believe it. I had to go back to the brain to make sure it was his brain. And I submitted another set of slides just to confirm. So when the second set of slides came back and I saw the same thing, I was afraid that I was being delusional. Remember, I was suffering from depression. So I decided to take the slides to 2 different doctors to confirm what I was seeing. So the 2 doctors I showed the slides to confirmed. They said, yes, this is something new. He's not a boxer, so it cannot be dementia pugilistic. Then what is it? So I went back to the library for almost 6 months. I searched the literature back to the time of Hippocrates. It had never been reported. But I recognized this was an occupational disease, and it was all a matter of time it would end up in the court of law. That what I had to do was find more brains of football players, but in the interim, I had to give it a name. Chronic Traumatic Encephalopathy doesn't really mean anything. All it simply means is a bad brain associated with trauma. Because I was afraid I could be wrong. So if down the road somebody proved me wrong, I would have wiggle room to exit and say, oh, after all, it doesn't mean anything. Then it sounded intellectually sophisticated, because if it was intellectually sophisticated, people would be more likely to use it, because it will give people some utility, and people will be more likely to repeat it. And then it had a good acronym for those who cannot say, they can always fall back to CTE. So we published the paper.
What were you thinking when you came up with this result? Did you realize what a big deal this was,
No.
given the big deal that football was?
I was a total ignoramus of football, American football. I did not know what a quarterback was. I did not know what a touchdown was. I did not even know what the NFL stood for. I was naive. But the humanity of my science and the humanity of my faith made me believe that this was a good thing. Guess what? It was not.
We saw some reflection in the movie Concoction,
Yes.
played by Will Smith.
I am the wrong person to have discovered this.
If you don't speak for them, who will?
I found a disease that no one has ever seen. Repetitive head trauma chokes the brain.
Knowing what we know today in science, centuries of work by very intelligent people, there is no justifiable reason whatsoever why any child under the age of 18 should continue to play the high-impact, high-contact collision sports. The big six are American football, ice hockey, mixed martial arts, rugby, boxing, and wrestling. For the less contact, less impact sports like soccer, there should not be any heading below the age of 18. 18 is when you become an adult, when your brain becomes fully developed. And children under the ages of 12 to 14 shouldn't play soccer as we play today, because soccer is a high dexterity sport. And it's a sport that requires very high levels of visual spatial coordination. Children don't have that. That is why concussion rates are very high in soccer amongst children. So we should develop a less dribble, less contact type of soccer for children. Then lacrosse. I don't think any child under 18 should play lacrosse. Lacrosse has the highest levels of concussions amongst all sports. Children should play the non-contact, non-impact sports: track and field, swimming, table tennis, lawn tennis, badminton, volleyball, basketball. There are so many of them if you visit the International Olympics Committee website. The non-contact sports will give your child everything ice hockey, football, or rugby would give your child, but even more. The non-contact sports will protect your child's intelligence. The high-impact, high-contact sports expose your child to repeated blows of the head. And repeated blows of the head over time, with or without suffering a concussion, with or without a helmet, destroys your child's mind and takes away your child's intelligence.
You told your story in this book, Truth Doesn't Have a Side.
Yes.
So what is your message today?
I spent almost 1 year writing this book to help each and every parent answer that question. Do I love sports? Do I love football? Do I love ice hockey? Or do I love rugby more than I love my child?
Easy question to answer. No sports will supersede the love of a parent for their child. Yet, you see how some children will have that passion. I want to play American football. I want to play rugby. You know, if we come back to football, just very briefly, are there some positions within the game that are less dangerous, or are there some ways that children can play but can be protected better?
We cannot make football safe. Thank you for what you've just said. And there's a chapter in the book about your question. If your child runs to you, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, I want to smoke a stick of cigarette, please," what would you tell your child? No, because smoking a cigarette could be harmful for your child. But if that child calls, oh, mommy, I want to play football, please. You put on a helmet on his head, send him out to a field to suffer concussions.
I think a lot of it also has to do with the lack of the education and information. People don't know, parents don't know. It's not intentional in many cases.
And that is why this book is a must read for each and every parent. Because if your child's brain is damaged tomorrow, your response shouldn't be, I did not know. I've sacrificed too much, so much of my life and career to get to where we are today.
It's a compelling story. I read the book and it's really incredible. Just to touch on your personal journey, you wanted to be a pilot, you became a doctor because you wanted to please your dad. You became a pathologist because you didn't know what else to do in the field of medicine.
I gave a commencement speech in Ireland to the Royal Colleges of Surgeons. And in my speech, I said to the graduating class, success is not guaranteed in life. What is guaranteed in life is failure. Failure, shortcomings, inadequacies, insufficiencies is guaranteed. But what will make you successful is your ability to convert your failure into success. Along my journey of life, I encountered numerous, uncountable failures and hurdles. So what I did was I embraced those failures, it's okay, but turned them around and created successes from them, created value from them. So the message is, no matter who you may be, where you are, you fail. It's okay to fail. Don't beat up on yourself. Embrace it. Walk with it. Turn it around. That was all I did at various stages of my life. I would fail. I'll embrace it. I'll turn it around.